Oh, God.
Hey, hey, what's up? I am Ara, aka I Zebra, and welcome back to the channel. I am joined again by my very special co-host, Jade's back.
I'm back.
I don't know why I say that every time you're like on the channel. You've been on the channel a couple times now, but we are covering the latest episode of Snowfall, so season 5, episode 3. So, what are your overall thoughts on the episode?
I liked this episode a lot. I'm really my favorite scene in the episode was the last scene with Jerome, Franklin, and Louis, and that conversation they had, and that made me really excited for the rest of season 5. I think that's going to be a big. I don't know if you want to talk about it now. We'll get to it, but that's going to be a huge piece of season 5.
Yes, that it seems like there might be some problems brewing in the family. For me, what I really enjoyed about this episode is very concentrated. So we essentially have like the two major plot beats. It's Reed and Franklin, and Gustavo pops in, but mostly Reed and Franklin, and then Louis, Jerome, and our boy Skully's back.
That was such a surprise.
Killed him off by accident. I mean, I think everybody thought Skully was dead.
Yeah. You had no reason to believe that he lived past season 4, so that was a great treat for all of us who love Skully gang.
Yeah, Stacy. Don't forget to ask about Stacy. But I'm not gonna lie. Like the first time he was introduced, I kept calling him Stacy, but now he's actually he's Skully to me now. I'm like, all right.
Right.
I hate when I do that with certain actors. But it's like you play a character, you kind of that character for a while, but that's whatever. Real. Anyways, but with Skully being back, that was exciting.
It was very exciting.
That I would say not his introduction, but also towards the back end of the episode, the scene with him, Jerome, and Louis.
Yes,
I really love that scene.
That was a great one too. In the episode,
that was so good. Like when they're talking and they're talking about how they're like trauma bonded. I thought that was really, really. Oh, that's gonna be.
They're together for life now. It seems like they're kind of loyal to each other now. I like to see that.
Yeah, so it's such a good scene. But let's just kind of get into the motions of the episode. So we open up, we get Franklin and the team having a meeting. Yes. So we see Franklin, Leon, Louis, Jerome, the bodyguards, Peaches, kind of the crew. Usually Rob would have attended a meeting like this, but R.I.P. our boy, R.I.P. white boy Rob. But they're having a team meeting. Franklin essentially tells everybody what happened with Teddy arriving at his home the night before. So Teddy's back. Price of the rock staying the same. Well, price of the brick staying the same, I should say. You know, kind of like
Grady's gone.
Grady is missing.
Yeah. We don't know what happened to Grady. We know what happened to Grady. They do not know.
Exactly. So it's just like, oh, all his stuff is just gone. He's gone. Everything's cleared out. And with that being said, we have Leon who chimes in. So this is Leon's only appearance in the episode.
It was a very Leon light episode.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad. I love Leon. But Leon points out that he thinks, obviously, that Grady, well, it seems like the consensus is that Reed killed Grady.
Yes, yeah.
That seems to be the thing. And Leon points out he probably did it because you and Grady sitting here like Bert and Ernie. He's probably jealous to an extent. And
that's interesting for Leon to say that Franklin and Reed are Bert and Ernie.
Well, no, Franklin and Grady were Bert and Ernie.
Oh, Franklin and Grady or Bert and Ernie.
Yeah.
And getting jealous of your partner.
Yeah. Oh, also
getting another partner.
Oh, definitely getting the other partner. And I wanted to point out with them calling him Reed at the end of last episode. We forgot to touch on it.
Keep messing up. Yeah.
But it's Teddy. He says call him Teddy. And Franklin points that out as well. That he says, he wants us to call him Teddy now. And they're all like,
and just to mention, Teddy is Reed's original name. That's his birth name. And then he was Reed as his CIA alias. And he's back to Teddy.
Yeah, because his cover has been blown. So it just doesn't make sense that going by Reed. Because Reed's exposed. But his identity was never revealed by Alton. And Franklin also, not Franklin, I believe Jerome points out that what about Alton? It's either Jerome or Louis, one of the two points it out. They're a unit.
And that was my question from the first episode, because we hear Franklin on the phone with Sissy, who's still in Cuba, but there's no mention of Alton, unless I'm mistaken. Yes. Did they talk about him at all in that call? No. So for 2 episodes, they've been like, okay, so when are we going to hear? Is anyone going to bring him up? Like, what? Yeah. What happened to this guy?
Like, the most we've heard was when the CIA agent had pointed out to Reed, like, you know, you kind of his dad. Like, you're okay with working with the guy whose dad you killed, but Franklin, it comes up. He brings it up to him, but let's we'll get to that when we get to that lunch scene, because there's so much happening in that lunch scene. But essentially, let's move past the meeting, because kind of like what happened in the meeting.
Yeah,
and we get another meeting. There's a lot of meetings in this episode. But we get the introduction of one of Skully's, like,
would you call him
people?
I was going to call him second in command, but I don't really know what his ranking is.
In Skully's organization. But it's higher up. He's a higher up in Skully's organization. He's a blood. His name is Mello. He actually, the actor played Simeon from Gullah Gullah Island, if you used to watch that show. Little fun fact, my first pet was a rabbit, and his name was Simeon. After the character from Gullah Gullah Island. So
it was a great show.
It was a great show. I loved it. But now look at him. He's a blood. He's a big blood. And we see him meeting with Jerome and Louis. And they're talking about lowering the price. So now we get to the root of why Louis and Jerome keep being so insistent on Franklin dropping his prices. It's because they're getting pressure from Skully's people to drop the prices. Yes. But there's a hiccup. Grady agreed to it. So I'm assuming Louis like, cool. After Franklin's like, yo, Grady's like, we're cutting the prices. So she probably was like, okay, I was able to get that price cut for you guys.
Told them.
Definite. Teddy coming back was a monkey wrench in everybody's plans. Like, nobody was expecting that at all. That really threw everything off. It kind of derailed what they were going.
Like, it did. Yeah. It messed up the plans for sure.
Yeah, so now...
He wouldn't agree to the price drop.
Yep, so Teddy does not agree to the price drop, as mentioned. And that means Louis now has to go back on her word to Skully about the prices remaining the same. Which obviously presents an issue, because if you're telling someone you're going to do something, they expect you to do it and follow up on your word. It's not only that, but given the history between Louis, Jerome, and Skully.
Yeah, they're soul bonded.
They are soul bonded. They are so soul bonded.
And that I was just gonna say about the vows and stuff. That goes back to what you were saying in the first episode with Franklin and his vow that he made to Rob. And we're seeing a lot of like vows kind of being broken, and people don't like that. People don't take it well when you break your promises.
Yes,
especially these type of people.
Yes, your word is everything. Yeah. Especially in the game. It's the difference between life and death sometimes. So for them to say that obviously that's a hindrance in cost. Also, that seems to take away from other people in Skully's organization who are probably coming at him because they're not making enough money.
Right.
So they're not so Skully's people, they're not making enough. Skully's not making enough. Louis and Jerome aren't making enough either. Which is where problems start to look like they're growing in Skully's organization.
Yeah, a little bit of unrest.
But what else did you get from like the introduction to Mello? He seemed kind of, in my opinion, a little overconfident.
I suppose so. Yeah, I wasn't really drawn to Mello when I first saw him. He kind of reminds me of Man-Boy, but not like he wasn't as charming as Man-Boy. So
or as smart.
Or as smart as Man-Boy. But it's funny because I think it's either Mello or Jerome. I think it's Mello, actually. I did like this one part where he said that everybody answers to somebody, where Louis and Jerome were like, our hands are tied when it comes to the price. We can't really do anything about it. It's coming from above us. And Mello's like, well, this is coming from above me. We don't know if he's telling the truth or not. I don't really trust Mello when he says stuff like that. But he was saying, when it comes from above me, we all just got to answer to somebody. So
exactly. So which that comes back around later about answering to people. Anyways, let's move to the next scene because there's a lot there. In this next scene, we talk about Franklin and V. So this is the next time we see Franklin and Veronique together. And Franklin is on the phone briefly, and he mentioned something about really quick remark about the plane needing a spare part. And that's what she was like, oh, are you having car trouble? And he's like, oh no, trouble with the plane. And she's like, oh, of course. And then Veronique starts asking a lot of narky questions, which I know we've discussed it, so I guess we can tell you guys. She's a narc.
Yeah, I don't trust Veronique. Veronique is definitely working for somebody. Yeah, I think she's a narc. I'm interested to see. I don't think they will though, but I would want to see like how she and Franklin even came about. Like, where did you meet her? I need to see more of her backstory because I don't trust her. But yes, yeah, like the questionings on the phone. She
gives off very, I believe, DEA, like undercover DEA.
I see that
because figure Teddy works for the CIA. They don't really communicate a lot with other people within the CIA. Like the CIA kind of sticks within themselves. But especially back in the
I was gonna say in the 80s, just agencies weren't communicating with each other like that. That's why there were a bunch of serial killers. Like things are always happening, and they weren't telling each other about intel. So
so you had a lot of like politicking going around in certain cases. But besides the point, the DEA, if they don't know or are not privy to the CIA's real intentions behind what Reed calls the mission, if you will, which is they're flooding the streets with all the drugs and the guns, and the profits they're getting from that in LA, they're using to help fund rebellions and overthrow Central American governments.
Nicaragua specifically is what like he mentions, but
yes. So what they're looking to do is essentially, they overthrow the government there.
Yeah.
The U.S. is funding it.
America's known for that.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
And stuff.
Yeah, so Franklin essentially is funding a coup in Central America. Pretty much almost by himself.
Yeah.
That's how much money he's making. It's insane. And it's only going to the network's only going to continue to grow.
Right. And that's not something that everybody would be privy to. There's no reason for everybody to know about like the secret operation going on in LA. And so that definitely makes sense where if Veronique is DEA, she would have no idea. It doesn't matter to her either. They just
see like
guns and the drugs.
Yeah, they're like, we're here to get the gun. Not the guns, I'm sorry. We're here to get the drugs.
Not ATF, drugs.
Yeah.
DEA.
Yeah, so with the DEA, they're probably here to get the drugs because they're just following up. Like, obviously, you want the biggest fish.
Yeah.
When it comes to an arrest. Like, that's what you want to get because that's the highest in command. But then that also creates a power vacuum, which is also a bad thing at times. But besides the whole point of the DEA, they want to get the biggest fish involved. That is Franklin. They probably, they're investigating all these little small people. They got Franklin, but in order to nail Franklin, you kind of got to go deep undercover because if you really start digging into Franklin, you can tell he has some really high level connections.
Yeah.
Even if you're working in another agency, certain things Franklin gets away with, you would know he's connected pretty well. So sending someone deep undercover like this to try to bust Franklin, I feel is really likely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And just the way certain questions that Veronique asks, and the way she asks them comes off very undercover.
It's just crazy too, because if this is true, this is the third woman who's kind of, I don't even know if you can say third, because Melanie, that's a different experience completely, but she did shoot Franklin. But then we have Tanase from season 4, was that last season? Tanase, who was double crossing Franklin, so that would be kind of crazy if this is his, again, another relationship where it's not all what it seems.
Yeah, and obviously with her saying that she's pregnant, that definitely, I think that would, for him at least, eliminate that suspicion.
I see.
I believe that would, for him, because it's like, all right, if she was like but she is only a couple weeks pregnant, and she seems to know a lot.
That's true too. I don't trust her. She's
lying.
Just
don't trust
I hope
her.
She's not lying about the pregnancy, but it's not looking good for Veronique.
I think she's lying about the pregnancy. Unless I see
good for her at all.
Unless I see them at an appointment together.
Yeah.
With ultrasounds.
Okay, even then, you think it's
well, not that you don't go at 6 weeks.
I don't get deep into it, but
well,
you think
at
someone
least
would get pregnant just for a cover?
That's what I'm saying.
A slip, even maybe that's crazy.
A mistake. I could see a mistake happening, and like Grady, she went native.
Yeah,
but she's supposed to go native.
Going native. Oh my gosh,
she's in too deep. I think she's getting in herself too deep, and she actually made me fall because, like, one, he's a handsome fella, but look what you're getting access to.
Yeah,
she's like the way she says, like, oh, I forgot. Like, it's hard to get like she knows she wanted the finer things, but she didn't realize what that actually looked like when it was presented to her. And she even acknowledges, like, Franklin moving the cleaner route, but if it takes him a while to get there, she's okay with, like, she says that, like, I know it's gonna take a bit of time for you to get all your money clean and get out of the game, and I'm willing to wait. And that just comes off narky to me.
Interesting.
Mostly because when we see a lot of other shows, like, the partner that's pregnant, usually if their significant other is dealing drugs,
they want them out quick.
They want them out faster.
Yeah.
It gets exponentially quicker. Like, you want that person out the game
safety
for the safety.
And she claims to, tell Franklin to do whatever you need to do for our safety, but that's questionable. Veronique's a narc.
Mostly the reason why I think that from her, because there are some people, like, if you look at Tasha from Power, Tasha wanted Ghost to stay in the game, but that's also because she was kind of a player in said game.
Yeah. The stakes are different when it's something like that, or just like you're.
But Veronique, to me, she doesn't come off that way. This is a college-educated lawyer. You know what I mean? She worked really hard for that.
Yeah.
Especially back then, as like a Black woman in the 80s, becoming a lawyer, like, it's a big accomplishment. It was harder. Like, things were harder. So I do want to acknowledge, like, all the obstacles this one had to overcome. So for her to put that on the line for, he does real estate, but he's predominantly a drug dealer.
And she doesn't want him to leave the game quickly. Not that she doesn't want him to leave the game, but she's like, if it takes you a while, we'll be okay. Me and the baby will be okay.
Yeah.
And
it, for me, it doesn't seem a woman that's achieved that much would be willing to sacrifice all her hard work for a guy. And when she said, she's mentioned how hard she's worked to get to where she's at.
Yeah.
And he acknowledges that. He knows she's ambitious, and he even says, like, I know you don't want to be like a housewife or anything. So why would you be so okay?
You wouldn't be. A normal person would. Not normal.
Your average she's person with that history.
Yeah. No, she's an arc. I've been convinced. I can't wait I'm going to look with this lens through the rest of the season and just overlook all. No, overlook. I don't know what I'm saying.
Like,
I'm gonna be like
critically
very overcritical.
Yeah, everything she says. Yeah. Why are you asking about Teddy and Alton?
Not trusting her.
Yeah, she probably even heard or read a couple articles when the whole situation did happen. If she grew up in that area, it probably was a big news story. But with all that public coverage, again, why would you seek this person out? Even though, again, it was through employment, you could still, like, frankly, got game, but is that what made you seek out that job?
Yeah.
Like, she's a narc. She's a narc. She's a narc. She's a narc.
Yeah.
She's a narc.
She is.
She's a narc. Anyways, let's move on to somebody that's not a narc. The actual literal opposite of a narc.
Who is it?
My boy Skully.
Skully.
So,
talk about Skully.
Me too. We get the conversation. So this is following the meeting with Mello, Louis, and Jerome. Mello goes back to Skully, tells them, hey, they takesy backsies, price isn't getting cut. We see Skully with a katana.
Scully's a wild boy, and he listens to his like very 1986 like robot music. He'll just be like in his apartment dancing by himself. He's funny. And with a katana.
Yeah, I love Skully. He's so like eccentric.
He seems like he's very eccentric, yeah, because he does all of this like really like goofy stuff, but then he'll slice somebody up. He'll murder you. Grizzly.
No, he reminds me of, speaking of power. Oh, why did I forget his name? The first plug that Ghost and Tommy had in the very beginning of Power. The crazy was he Colombian? I think, or Mexican. Oh my gosh, he was like the first the guy that he was their boss. He ends up taking him out, but he was just super flamboyant and crazy, and I loved him. And I'm so mad I can't remember his name, but if you remember his name, please let me know in the comments if you know who I'm talking about. He was their first plug. They end up killing him in like a prison break thing.
And I watched Power season 1. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
A while ago.
I don't remember all the details, but besides the point, he gives me like that kind of vibe. Very erratic. Erratic, a little flamboyant, but very, you know how Skully rolls.
Yeah.
And
he's a man of I don't want to say morals, but he's got his code. You kind of know what you're getting with someone like Skully. He's not erratic in the way that maybe the punishment doesn't fit the crime. Like he goes kind of left field, and he's a little he's very violent, but he's not, I don't want to say he's not unreasonable, but you know,
he usually doles out justice to people that are sometimes deserving of it, because there's a scene a little bit later that I'm like, okay, but anyways, the phone call happens. The big thing that we brought up earlier is keeping your word. And that's what Skully's upset about with Jerome and Louis, is they're not keeping their word. And he has this crazy saying, I wish I got all of it, but it's about something with possums and shit and playing
that was a crazy quote.
Yeah, it was not an idiom I have heard before. So I think it sounds like something Skully probably made up.
Some out west shit. I don't know. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I already did. But anyway, like possums smell like shit. Well, they're they're playing dead. Essentially, whatever it means, it's just a matter of like deception, people not keeping their word. That's his biggest issues. They are not keeping their promises to him, and he feels they are indebted to him. Which, it being the day before his daughter Tiana's birthday, and Tiana was killed by Leon, a member in their organization, and then.
Going back to like the dichotomy of Skully too, where his house is like a freaking dungeon. It looks like a den, but then he's got his like shrine to Tiana and Khadijah, was that the mom's name? And it's all pink with balloons, and it's like Skully that's that type of person.
Yeah, he's probably Gemini. Anyway, but Skully, he does have that duality to him, and when he slice off the dude's ear, and he's like, don't be bleeding on my floor and don't get blood on my baby's balloon.
That was wild. And that guy didn't deserve his ear getting cut off. Like, Skully was a little, that was a little mean, Skully, and I support you in almost everything you do. I really do.
But I love him for that. I really do. And they end up so before we even see him do the thing with the ear, Louis, Jerome walk up to the project that Skully lives at, and you actually can see 3 people. They're standing there on cinder blocks. They're barefoot, and they all have signs on them. One of the signs says thief, the other says Judas, and the other one says jokes not funny. Bruh, you got me butt ass naked, blindfolded, with a sign on around my neck saying "not funny" or "jokes not funny." Like, my joke was that bad.
It
like,
wasn't that bad.
Was it that bad, Skully? It's so mean. That's what I'm saying. Like, some of the things that Skully does, I'm like, all right.
He forces it.
Yeah, that was a force. That was a force. But anyways, they walk in, they see that, so they already know. Everybody knows Skully's unhinged, but Skully's unhinged right now.
Yeah.
And they walk in, he does a whole katana thing, and he again brings up the fact that you guys made a promise to me, and you're going back on it. They say they're working on it.
He is tight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not satisfied.
No.
Skully does not like that answer. But they notice, obviously, that's a lot to witness as a bystander within Skully's crew. Like, imagine you're just a guy from the block, and this is your set, and you just
watch someone's ear get sliced off
with a freaking sword with house techno robot music playing.
Robot music. Like, he goes back to dancing real quick. He cries probably over like his daughter and Khadijah, and then and slices someone else's ear out. Like, he's crazy
while quoting Bible verses on some like Pulp Fiction shit.
He's erratic, and that's not somebody you necessarily want to work for. Maybe you're looking for a way out, a way to escape him. Maybe
or usurp him, which Louis and Jerome catch that. While in that meeting, they can tell that there's tensions rising. And they pick out Mello, who they met with earlier, and they realize, I think he is trying to plot something.
Yeah, he's somebody who he's someone you can maybe use as an in to get Skully, because he's seemingly not satisfied. Yeah, we said Skully's erratic.
Yeah.
We need that price cut, or rather,
the price is staying the same.
Yeah, the price is staying the same. So, like, makes sense.
Yeah, so they kind of notice that, and they start making plans to emotion, essentially, to expose that potential threat to Skully. But we'll pick up on that in a little bit. So we move on, and we see Reed back in his office just for a brief moment, and he looks at a picture of him and his brother. Back
or Matt.
Matt, yeah, R.I.P. Matt. I liked Matt, and I felt so bad because he literally died for like no reason.
No reason. And that was the start of Teddy Reed's descent into madness. That was really when he lost his grip on reality and really like fell into that role.
And the way Matt died, like it was a forced overdose.
Yeah.
And it was because of his actions. He was just I feel Teddy's dedication also comes from not wanting his brother to have died in vain.
That makes sense, because there really wasn't a reason why Matt.
It
didn't have to be like that.
Yeah, it didn't click to me until just now when I thought about it. I'm like, that has to be it. He's so deep in the cause, not because he really cares about anything in Central America. I believe it really has to do with he just doesn't want Matt's death to have been for nothing.
For no reason. I definitely don't buy his very patriotic answer that he gives everybody. That's just something to say. It's for my country, and we can't lose this war. Reed could give a
rat's ass.
He does not care. He doesn't.
Yeah, no, he legit.
And he definitely has his family issues, and I'm that compounded with the guilt of Matt. And I agree with you. Wow.
Yeah. Poor Teddy, but he's still an asshole. And we cut
we
back.
Have trauma, Teddy. Whatever.
Yeah. Everybody, that's what I like about the show. Everybody's so layered.
Yeah.
But we move back to Louis and Jerome. They're, putting those plans in motion. So they pull up on the girls that were responsible for shooting Louis while they're picking up their children from school.
This scene was crazy. The children were privy for all of this conversation. They should not have been.
Like, what? What, Mom? You did what?
They probably heard some crazy things, but...
Oh, yeah, and I can only imagine the kind of shit that they've heard. They probably heard some wild stuff. But Louis and Jerome essentially tell them, hey, do us a favor. We know you have connections within the strip club still. We want to get intel or try to get essentially get intel on Mello. So they know a dancer in particular that would be good for the part. But Jerome has apprehensions about working with them in general because they shot Louis.
Yeah.
And one of them apologizes. She at least apologizes for it. She's like, I'm kind of glad you did not, that you did.
You didn't not die?
Yeah.
That was
you
weird.
lived. Like, you could have just said, I'm glad you lived.
I'm happy you lived, but she said, I'm glad you didn't not die. Okay.
Yeah, double negatives. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Especially because those two, it seems, will do anything for the money. I mean, everybody in the show, I guess, will to an extent, but just the fact that they went from working with Khadijah to working with Franklin, they can kind of flip on a dime. They're not really, like, loyal at all.
Paid for hire,
especially, you shot Louis. You put her in the hospital, and that's Jerome's baby, so he is going to have a sore spot about that probably forever.
Yeah. And Franklin is just like, hey, they helped me get back Khadijah, so.
Ooh, I want
to actually, look, what's his face? Killed them. Killed her. For Jerome killed Khadijah.
Killed Khadijah. Khadijah's not even in the picture anymore. But I want to go back to that later when we talk about the last scene, because that's interesting. That's just
yeah. But I really want to move up to this next scene because this is probably, I think, I love this scene. So we get Teddy and Franklin. They're sitting at a little cafe. They're having lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And Franklin, it opens the conversation with talking about the price reduction. And he brings up how, it's really competitive. The market's a little bit more saturated. Grady agreed to cut my prices.
Mm-hmm.
Can you why can't you hold up to that? I need you to do that. And Reed points out, my prices are competitive. Your issue is you're playing middleman in your own house.
Yes.
You and Jerome and Louis splitting off and buying product from Franklin isn't turning back the same profit
as if they were all in one house. Yeah.
And Teddy's basically like, I'm staying where I'm at.
Yeah.
You need to get your shit together.
It's their organization. There's problems here, and that's the reason why.
Yeah, so he was very right when he approached the CIA asking for his job back on the grounds of, I know this operation. I will be able to figure out every single issue that's going on and why things aren't working the way they were supposed to. And this is a big factor.
That was an accurate assessment. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously Grady's wastefulness was one part. Compound that with this in-house division.
Mm-hmm.
He's right.
Mm-hmm.
He's right. And Franklin brings it back up later, but Franklin does acknowledge that he is correct in that assessment. And Franklin asked the question,
what did you do to my dad? Where did my dad go? This is a storyline that's getting to me, because I just need to know. I just need to know why. What is Sissy doing? What does she know? Did he just leave? What were they? I know he told them that all the stuff is just gone, and I don't know. It just bothers me. This is bothering me a lot.
Yeah. So Teddy denies all involvement with Alton. He's like, well, your father's a former Panther. He's a high-profile asset for any intelligence agency,
especially blah, blah, blah. They all could be after him.
In Cuba, especially in the 80s. You know what I mean? Well, that's not cool, but kind of. But anyways, he's making it seem like his dad could have just been taken out by anybody.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't do anything. My hands were tied. I was, stuck on timeout when it.
No, you weren't.
No, you did it.
You went to Cuba and you killed him.
He had no problem admitting he killed Grady.
Yeah.
He will not own up to killing Alton.
He knows Franklin. That would open up a whole can of worms he doesn't even want to deal with. It's better to just say he disappeared. Reed's a piece of shit for that. He is just lying straight to Franklin's face. Yes. He didn't even blink when he said it. He's like, I have no idea.
Yeah, no idea. I had nothing to do. If he means Teddy, because Reed did it.
That's an interesting point too. That he is not Reed anymore. He's Teddy. So technically, Reed might have killed the dad and not Teddy. But this just goes back to how
cooked.
He's not in his right place anymore, and he hasn't been for a while. Well, he's in his right place, but
he's really deep in it too. For somebody who acts like he's not deep into it.
Yeah. I know. Talking about like other people being native, like Reed kind of.
Yeah, bro.
Not in the same way as Grady, where he's being spendy and all of that, but Reed is definitely ingrained in this role at this point. And
yeah. That's his thing. But Franklin peeps game, and he already knows he can't trust Teddy. And Teddy also mentions at the end of their meeting, "Oh, I'm not going to be at the next drop. Gustavo is. He'll give you like all the info. I have to get my ducks in a row." Franklin's already like clocking Teddy, like, you're fishy right now. I don't appreciate it, fishy boy. But we move on. We see Teddy and Gustavo get together, and essentially Teddy relays that message to Gustavo and tells Gustavo it's not the same drop point. It's going to be somewhere else, which we do see that drop a little bit later. But before we get to the drop, because I was saying not much happens in that scene between Teddy and Gustavo.
No.
Besides just giving the info.
Just that was the most important part, that the drop location is going to be changed.
Exactly. And we get to the strip club. Our boy, well, not really our boy, Mello, is making it rain, which apparently was very uncommon back then. As she's, the way they talk about it, like when the stripper ends up debriefing about what happened with her Mello. Like, it was like he made it rain dollar bills, and he threw 2,000 at her just to get naked.
Crazy.
And she was able, the thing with a good stripper, like a really good stripper, or they can read people really well. They kind of can tell people's at least personality types, so they could tell he's very overconfident. That guy, he's super cocky. He probably would be down to, get rid of Skully. Yeah. So she kind of manipulates his ego a bit.
And for sure.
And I did notice, but I wanted to bring up the 2,000 that he threw at her just to get naked. To me, it seems like he's skimming money, probably, which could be another issue to the price.
That's why I said it earlier when, what is his name? Mello said that his hands were tied when it came to the price. I was like, we don't know if he's telling the truth or not, because he could very well be skimming off the top. And I didn't really put two and two together, but him having that much cash on him, that could be a hint that maybe that's what that was. Just getting a little greedy.
Yeah, and which messed it up for her, because that's one person's greed can really ruin a whole organization. It's like a cancer.
Yeah.
Because then they're taking from others.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring that back up a little bit when we get to towards the final scene. But we do a quick little sidestep to Franklin and Peaches.
Oh, yeah, it's a little quick scene. But,
so this is a very quick scene, but I believe this is going to have major implications later on. So Franklin also mentions again he has an overdue trip to Panama, and I believe this is due to the plane being temporarily out of commission, which is really fishy to me because he was just flying it with Grady.
And now it's messed up.
And
put some Teddy stuff.
It smells like Teddy. It smells like Teddy.
Just evil.
Yeah, it's sus. But anyways, he sees all the money. But one thing I like that Peaches says, and I feel like it implanted something in Franklin as well, is I like being alive more than I like the money.
Yeah. Yeah, because Franklin kind of touches on that, again, always alluding to the last scene, but Franklin kind of touches on that also in that last scene. And that's a good point, because you're doing all of this stuff to be able to amass this wealth, but it's such a dangerous game that you might not even be able to enjoy your wealth.
Yeah.
You're setting it up for your family, but Peaches said, I want to live. I'm trying to have fun while I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm only here for a short time.
It's looking like it, because it may not seem like a big detail that he has a cold. a little cold. Franklin mentions, I don't want to get sick because she doesn't want to obviously get pregnant, Veronique sick. Mm-hmm. But I think this is a hint towards, I think Peaches might have HIV. And the reason I say this is the time period in which this series is taking place, we're into the crack epidemic.
Mm-hmm. It's 86 by this season.
86, yeah. AIDS is on its way. Mm-hmm. And it ravages communities. Like, AIDS was terrifying. AIDS is still, it's not as bad as it was back then because obviously with more research.
Leaps and bounds, yeah.
Yeah, now like a diagnosis, you could, completely live a full life, obviously with like a certain, medical regimen and stuff like that. But it wasn't as, like the early aughts when we didn't know. Like there was no research, there was no studies. Nobody knew what was happening, how it was transmitted. Like that, there's this really famous picture of Princess Diana shaking hands with a young child that had been born with AIDS.
And she's ungloved. And
she's
ungloved.
It was
a huge deal that she had touched somebody skin-to-skin contact with an AIDS patient or an HIV patient. But
because that's how they thought it was transmitted back in the day, not obviously knowing how it really is. But I do think Peaches, because for me, I think I don't want Peaches to have a violent death, but Peaches dying of an illness,
that would be rough.
That would be rough. And it kind of reminds me of The Deuce a bit. So, The Deuce on HBO, really good series if you haven't seen it. It's only like 3 seasons. It's the same people that produced The Wire. So definitely recommend that. But, spoiler alert, one of the characters, he ends up catching HIV. Mm-hmm. And he was like starting to get really, really sick. And he's kind of like a Peaches type of character too. Like kind of like the big, silent, scary type, but they're really nice. Type of thing. Yeah. He's very similar to Peaches. It was they called him Black Mike because there's a white Mike and Black Mike. But anyways, so he goes up and to a cabin to kind of just like for some R&R.
Yeah.
But he was alone and he ends up passing away. And when his friend goes to check up on him, he's kind of like already like he's been dead,
decomposing. That's so sad.
And I unfortunately could see something like that for Peaches. That's
fucking awful.
Which I would hate. But I could definitely see Peaches dying of it.
Like, he did that infamous, like, not even trying to be that guy, but he did that infamous, like, stereotypical, like, cough when it's like, oh no, he's got a terminal illness, something bad is about to happen.
And the whole I like to live.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
it was a little too much.
It was too much. Yeah. R.I.P. bro. R.I.p. But
like the preemptive
art. Yo, let's raise funds for Peaches. But as I brought up, Franklin mentioned not wanting to get Veronique sick. Mm-hmm. So we see Franklin go to the drop of Gustavo. That's the next scene.
Yeah.
And he first starts off asking about, how the kid's doing, like little small talk, mentions how he, hasn't seen Gustavo in a while and good catching up. And he starts asking him how much he knows about Teddy coming back.
Yes.
Gustavo is kind of like, I didn't really know, I don't know much about what's going on with Grady and not really talking much.
No.
But his body language is giving away a lot.
Interesting.
I noticed like the way he kind of postured a little bit and he did make a subtle like eye movement like up. And it's a quick like I'd seen the episode like multiple 3 or 4 times in a very short time period. So after a while you start looking for little things like that. Yeah. But he makes it like his body language is kind of gesturing that we're not alone, we're not like somebody's watching. Mm-hmm. And we see Franklin glance up, look at the window, and then all of a sudden changes his tune about pondering why Grady left.
Grady.
He's like, I'm glad Teddy's back. Blah, 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 blah.
I love Teddy, man. I miss him. And
back to business as usual. And Teddy knows that Franklin made him. Because Teddy's not stupid. Mm-hmm. And Franklin, jumping a little bit ahead, but Franklin eventually goes back to confirm this information.
Yeah.
So he goes back to the warehouse the next day, parks his car in the same exact spot, and
goes into the building to check.
Exact spot.
Got a great view of the car. So Teddy was watching the entire drop just to make sure. not even to make sure I'd like to assess where Franklin is at this point, especially after that conversation they had at the cafe where it ends with Franklin saying, don't just pop up on me at my home, at my job, like nowhere. You can't do that anymore.
Not uninvited.
So Reed obviously knows that Franklin is feeling some type of way and probably just wants to see where his head is at and confirm whether or not there's maybe some bad brewing going on.
Yes.
Some bad vibes brewing.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch. It's going to be, it kind of harkens back to what Leon said about him probably being
just a little jealous.
Just a little jelly. But we cut to the club. That annoying ass cop walks in with a pot of gumbo.
I can't stand him.
I don't really want to spend much time on him, but main thing is he's again asks Louis, give me some info. Mm-hmm. Louis like, I'm working on it. I think Louis is more or less working on a plan to get rid of him.
Yes, especially from what we've seen of Louis this episode, I don't think she will end up working with that cop or giving him someone, to tide him over with the department.
Yeah.
I can only hope so, because I'll be very disappointed in Louis and just how her character's been up till now if she does go into that, but it's not looking likely. Yeah. And that cop is erratic, and they need to take him out. They get rid of that cokehead gumbo police officer.
Yeah, he gotta go. I do not trust him. He's gotta go. Mm-hmm. And I think they know that. They know that. And they're I don't think he's long for the show. But we see them move along, discussing more intel about what happened with Mello. Then they receive a page from Mello about wanting to meet. And Mello tells them, oh, Skully wants to take y'all out at the next meeting. Mm-hmm. And he proposes a coup to get rid of Skully while Skully is visiting a medium, essentially, to commune with Tiana on her birthday. Yeah, he offers them money to do it. They agree to it. Mm-hmm. So we go to the next scene, and we see them actually pull up on the lady's house. So it is, I believe, Vudon, like a practicer.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I should have got this info beforehand. But anyways, the lady, I do want to say her Haitian Creole is very on point. It's very on point. I verified that with sources, and by sources I mean my husband.
But that's like one of the hardest accents, I feel like,
to nail.
Yeah, if you're not getting a natural speaker, because they're butchering Haitian Creole accents.
Like Louis.
Or yeah, exactly.
That was awful.
Yeah,
it was just quick. But they pay her to essentially let them get the drop on Skully, and Skully arrives, nice and excited to see his little
Sunday's best. He was excited for that seance. He was excited for that, or whatever it was. The reading.
But Louis and Jerome tell them, "Hey, yo, we don't appreciate you trying to cross us." And Skully's like, "I knew something was up." And we assume, we quickly assume that, because the cut. Mm-hmm. They probably did him in, but they didn't want us to see that. Mm-hmm. But it's like, did they though? And Mello arrives at the club. He's like, I need proof because it's been pretty quiet if you guys actually did take him out. So
there would have been some news, something on the street.
Some murmurs.
Someone would have heard some sort of murmurs if you had actually killed Skully.
Yeah, so they're like, it's not amateur hour. And they toss the locket that belonged to Tiana, and Skully is just like, all right, not Skully, I'm sorry, Mello.
He takes that as like, okay,
keys to the kingdom, and Skully's like, you Judas, practically.
They had Skully hiding in the other room. He heard the whole thing.
Yes, he heard the treachery. Comes out, cracks Mello's neck.
That was brutal, bro. Crazy way to kill someone.
That was insane. That was, and he literally did it himself. And as he's like kind of giving him last rites as he's doing it, because it's very.
Sully is a very religious, spiritual guy, even though he, catches bodies and does awful things. He's still.
It's still his thing. He's one with the Lord, and Jesus is in him. But he ends up taking him out. But he also, the three people with Skully One of them is the unfunny guy, because he even says, he's like, yo, you unfunny ass dude. And I was like, that's joke's not funny, guy. And I mean, I see why he would want to take Skully out. You literally just have me standing butt ass naked in a cinder block, bro.
Right,
but
don't mess with it. I'm not messing with Skully anymore. He had some wild shit in front of the apartment.
And to me, it shows not only Jerome and Louis' loyalty towards Skully, and like that bond, that trauma bond, because they both sides inflicted tons of pain on each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for them to be like, it's kind of like trust the villain you know rather than
a stranger. Yeah.
And Scully's grateful for that. He's very grateful for that. And the money that he points out, the money he didn't want it because there's bad juju on it.
Bad juju on that money.
So keep an eye on that 100K. Keep an eye on that 100K.
Some bad stuff's about to happen.
Yeah. But Wanda, I'll say sorry.
Scene with Wanda.
Yes, Wanda gets a job.
Every time I see Wanda this season, I'm just so happy that she beat her addiction. I hope she stays clean. Wanda got a job. It's looking up for her. I'm proud and I'm happy for her.
We are so happy for Wanda. Good job, girl. And we move to the final scene, the team meeting, where Louis essentially and Jerome are like, hey, we got everything under control. We're good. But obviously there's still some problems there because Louis still wants the price cut because they're not making a lot of money from Skully and them regardless. Which, again, is that problem we brought up earlier. Franklin, because Louis been insistent on let me talk to Reed. Let me tell him. Let me show him what's going on. And Franklin's like, look, I'm not going to waste your time. Reed doesn't care about none of that at all. Teddy does not care. He thinks you're actually the issue and your greed is the problem. Franklin also points out he knows it wasn't Jerome's idea. He knows this is not Jerome's idea. Which we mentioned last week. Jerome's
the boss.
Yeah.
Jerome's kind of passive when it comes to these things. He stands behind Louis. He'll do what she's wanting to do, but he doesn't have those same ambitions as her when it comes to being the boss.
Yeah, and Franklin even offers yo, let's reconsolidate. I will split the profits 50-50 with you both. Way higher percentages. They're going to make way more money doing that. But for Louis, she wants the autonomy.
She wants the autonomy. It's more of a control thing for her. And I can't understand where she's coming from because with such a dangerous game that they're playing, I think she would rather anything life-threatening or anything that would be drastic be her choice as opposed to having a choice that was made by Franklin and they just have to deal with it.
Get the blowback.
Yeah, exactly. That it's that's hard. I can understand why she wants her autonomy.
Yeah, but Franklin also points out everybody got to answer to somebody.
Yeah,
and Franklin's like, I'm working with a dude that clearly probably killed my father, who will also take all of us out if we fuck up this money. So get your shit together.
For real.
And he also points out he's also willing to do that same type of thing as Reed. Yeah. Because he worked really hard. He wants to enjoy it and live as long as possible.
Exactly. That Peaches got into him, I think, a little, like you said earlier.
Yeah. And Jerome, you can tell Jerome actually agrees with Franklin. Jerome agrees with Franklin because it's going to make them more money. Again, consolidate. And he says, you all are lions fighting over sheep. This is a stupid fight.
It is a stupid fight, yeah.
Because they should be back together as a family. And I believe that's going to cause some tension between maybe Jerome and Louis at some point.
I definitely think just financially, they should be back together. It just makes the most sense. It is. I agree with Jerome, honestly, at the end of the day. It's lions fighting over sheep.
Yeah.
It's such an inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. You can make so much more money just coming back together. You're kind of letting petty reasons keep you apart. Yeah. I will say, though, I thought it was interesting because Franklin had told Louis, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to I can't remember the exact quote, but basically Franklin is ruthless. Franklin's cutthroat at this point. And I thought that was really funny considering the scene we saw with Jerome, Louis, and Skully. where they could have very easily taken Skully out and just started working with Mello, you know, like there's a roadblock in my way, I'm going to take the roadblock out and keep it pushing. They were able to find a way to like
come up with a more peaceful transition.
They really care about that bond. They appreciated Skully, so they weren't going to do that, as opposed to someone like Franklin, who no matter how much he loves and appreciates you, if you're in his way, you're going to get bulldozed over. Yeah. Like, I think if Franklin was in that position with the Skully, no, I can't say what Franklin would do. He's a mastermind. He's a genius, but he's definitely more willing to hurt people, even if you're soul bonded. Yeah, those three were.
He's really ruthless in that matter. Yeah, and I'm excited to see where we're going for the rest of the season.
Same. Yeah,
but we'll be back next week. That kind of was like the end of the episode.
It was. Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. The stakes are really high.
Setting it up for another great chess match with with the cast of Snowfall.
Yes, and not looking forward to seeing who gets knocked down, honestly, but somebody's gonna go. But that's been it for this week. Thank you for coming back, Jade. I hope you guys enjoyed our little after show, and we'll be back for episode 4. Bye.